if you do not work hard, then you won't get the success that you aspire to get. Don't just do it for the sake of it. Do extras because you know it's going to benefit you. You know that by doing those extra gym sessions, you are going to feel stronger. And do you have a coach that understands you as a person? And
welcome to another episode of Keeping It Out the Nets. This is season 1, episode 2. My mission is to interview the very best in goalkeeping, currently playing the game or have played the game to the highest level and now coaching. I want to get their insights into what it really takes to become a professional goalkeeper at the top level in the modern game. So don't forget to subscribe to this video if you're watching. It's going to form a podcast, a book, and also this YouTube video. I'm really excited to introduce my second guest to this show. Someone who's been there himself. He's played to the highest level, a graduate of the West Ham Academy. He's played at different teams such as Lewes, Woking, Charlton Athletic, Crystal Palace. And most recently, he's been coaching at clubs like Braintree Town and Aldershot Town under manager Danny Searle as well. He was part of the promotion team under Bradley Quinton for Braintree Town as well. And he's someone also as well who, there's not many in the game, but there are some who are such a likeable character and also someone who has your best interests at heart when it comes to making you a better goalkeeper. So I'm really happy to introduce to you Dave Blackmore to the show. Thanks for joining, Dave.
What an intro, mate! I don't think I can beat that. No, thanks for having me, Luke. Really good to be on, buddy.
So, just for the purposes of the viewers, and also I'm interested myself, just take me back to what got you into goalkeeping in the first place, and maybe some of the highlights up until the present day in your career.
Yeah, I mean, it's it seems a long time ago now. I mean, I'm only 32, but really, it seemed a long time ago since we started to put those boots on as a kid. I think when you were growing up, right, every boy's dream was to play football at some sort of level, and I was fortunate enough to obviously do quite a lot. I mean, the earliest, if I'm honest, with regards to getting into football, earliest memories were playing very much for my Sunday league team, which at the time was a club called White Notley, based just outside of Braintree, and was a lot around. I think they were on. I mean, back then we didn't really have the social media that we have now, and I think there was, through word of mouth, I knew that they were looking for some new players, and it was something, to be fair, my parents were just, never ever any pressure on the situation. It was more about, look, if you want to go and play football, we play football. The half-term type clubs you used to get circulated around the school when you were in junior school, and it was something I gave a go at White Notley, and to be honest, never really. It was one of those situations. I was quite a tall lad at probably 10 or 11 when I started, and it was something that it was something that I enjoyed doing. Basically, it was nice to see, obviously meet new people. It was something I just enjoyed. I enjoyed the training. As I say, I was one of the bigger guys on the pitch, so for me wasn't the easiest. And I actually started out on pitch, which not a lot of people know really. But I started off trying to play midfield, and quite quickly knew that I wasn't going to be a midfield player. Too tall, couldn't really run. Running wasn't my strongest point. And then to be honest, in terms of the journey for goalkeeping, was we had like every club would have a Sunday, a summer five-a-side tournament at their local club. The typical story: the goalkeeper gets injured. We're playing in the final to win this five-a-side tournament, and I'm on the pitch and I'm the biggest guy, and the game's going to penalties, and I was chucked in by the manager, and I ended up saving, I think, 3 out of the 5 penalties, and we won. And that was really the start for me. It was sitting down with my parents saying, you could do a job in goal. You'd be, it's something that I'd never even thought of, to be honest. And that really was the catalyst for moving forward. And then, from there went on. So started playing in goal more, scouted by Ipswich at the time when I was 13, 14, playing for White Knot Lee. At the time, my goalkeeper coach was on trial himself as a coach for Ipswich Academy. So, he took me up there. I was given a 6-week trial and played a couple of games, signed. And then, real interesting time at Ipswich, to be honest. Got to 15, 16, sort of trying to battle for a YTS and a contract. Used to spend a lot of time actually out of school. Ipswich would take me out of school 2 days a week to train with the first team. I'd travel up with one of my coaches. And then it got to 16 and, there was some real positive discussions that I was having with my parents and the club at the time. And for me, as a young kid, you sort of blinded by the bright lights, and I was, it sounded as though they were going to give me a really good contract, and that I was going to, support the, obviously playing the 18s. I was playing in the 18s at 15, so I was playing 3 years above my age group. And then I was told basically that, they were going to bring someone else in from further afield, and that, actually, instead of giving me a 2-year YTS contract, they'd only give me a year, and, obviously hit me hard, and to be honest, fell out of love with it straight away. It was quite instant. I fell out of love of. I think my hopes were they were leveraged so high, and when you're 15, 16, you're hoping to make it as a pro footballer. It's it was a tough time, and again, not a lot of people know this, but I gave up. I ended up at 16 saying to my parents that I didn't want to play anymore. I didn't know whether football was the right career. I'd obviously spent a lot of time, and so did my parents, in terms of, training, sacrificing stuff that you would do at that type of age to make sure that you were, you gave yourself the best possible chance. And I actually turned around to my parents one day. My dad said to me, he said, "There's something not right with you," after training one day. And I said, "No, there's not." And I was quite honest with them. And I just said, "Look, I'm not enjoying it, and I don't want to play football anymore." So instantly, the next day we were in at Ipswich, and it was, actually he's given up. So that was pretty tough. And then basically I had 6 months out. Okay. I had 6 months out of not really doing anything. I was at school, ended up, just as you do as a 16-year-old, with friends a lot of the time. But I wasn't the same person. I wasn't playing football. I'd gone back to a local Sunday league side. And then basically we got a call from a couple of people, and also Ipswich, to say, "Look, there's a couple of clubs that had asked, what you were doing." One of them being West Ham, and they were like, "Look, they want you to play in a trial game. Can you go and do it?" And I said, "Look," parents said, "Look, there's no pressure, but up to you." So I went and played the game. We played we played Milton Keynes Dons away. It was like an under-18s trial game, or under-16s trial game, and actually somewhere where I met the famous now and a good friend of mine, and I know that you know him as well, Luke. Obviously Jack Collison. He was in the same trial game as me. He'd just left Cambridge. Played the game, and then after the game, it was like, "Look, we want to sign you." So it just really turned around really quickly. We'll give you a 2-year deal. Played at West Ham, signed the deal, and then ended up spending 5 years there. Under different people. So, and then obviously moving on, it was tough, going through those years. First 2 years were great. First year didn't have a goalkeeper coach, which, is tough. I mean, me being on the other side now, really, it's tough when you haven't got a GK coach. We were warming up with the players, having to do a lot of the player sessions, and then, we would chuck straight into a shooting session, and, it's not always the best preparation. And then obviously taking that into games at weekends wasn't, there was coaches saying, "Look, we need, Dave's not looking, as sharp as we thought he was," or, there were situations in games where I was making mistakes. And then, I sat down with my coach at the time, and with Tony Carr, and said to Tony, I said, "Look, really need," he said, what do I need to do to try and support you through this? Because, we want to give you the best chance. And I said, "I need a goalkeeper coach." So they ended up scouting around, and they brought in a guy that ended up staying there a long time, has gone on in the game and successful, a guy called Andy Woodman. He came in, and to be honest, probably had my best year ever. In my second year, my YTS, they then gave me my professional contract, and it went on from there. And as I say, it's obviously now not playing, but between those years, it was great. Obviously, trained a lot with the first team. Some real good goalkeepers, by the way. My first year was Shaka Hislop, Roy Carroll, Jimmy Walker, people like this, and you walk in and Shaka's in the dressing room, and you're like, absolute legend. Yeah. All I remember is the size of his hands. Like we're talking about like goalkeeper glove size, like in terms of hands. Like I was a normal 10. I think Shaka wore like a 13, 14. These Sondico gloves, and it was just unreal. So I never loved the experience, but and take some good memories away. But didn't obviously plan out the way that I wanted it to in the end.
But obviously, you talk about when you were at Ipswich and you went on to West Ham. I suppose that highlights the fact that they say in life, often when you want to give up, that's the closest to, you're about to make it and do something better, your closest success. But obviously, one of the biggest parts of anything in life, but obviously goalkeeping in particular, is psychology. And people often talk about, passion I talked to Jack when I did a documentary on him, and he talked about how important passion is. How important has that been for you to have some underlying passion going into goalkeeping?
I think it's a must. I think if you haven't got passion, you haven't got desire, and all the typical words that we hear floating around, you need that to really give you that platform and that spring to go and do what you want to do. Look, I enjoyed every day being able to go in and train. Do I look back now and think, were there some things that I could have done better, or could I have tried harder? Probably, yeah. If I'm honest, I probably could have trained harder in areas. I could have spent more time on the practice pitch, could have listened more, or certainly asked more questions. But that aside, the love for goalkeeping and wanting to be a goalkeeper was always there. I was quite fortunate in the fact that I was always quite a tall lad.
Yeah.
I've seen so many goalkeepers come through the system, that unbelievable goalkeepers, but that typical, back when I was 17, 18, it was all about your height. How tall is he? We don't want to look at him unless he's minimum 6'3", 4. And that was the first question anyone would ask. Obviously nowadays it's different. But I've seen so many goalkeepers come through that unbelievable goalkeepers, but didn't have the height. And I was quite fortunate that I was at 16, 17. I was 6'3", 4, 5. And that sort of gave me at least a chance to get that opportunity, I guess. But from the passion perspective, and you were always passionate about what you were doing. I think looking back at it now, I'm even more passionate about what I do now. Being slightly older and probably a little bit more wiser. I think at the time when you're that type of age and you're around those types of people, and you don't take it all in. You don't appreciate at the time that I had 3 years coaching under someone like Ludo McCloskey, where you look back now and I think to myself, wow, like I speak to West Ham fans and friends that are West Ham fans, and you were coached by an absolute legend. And I was like, at the time, no. My naivety at the time, no, but now, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think you definitely have to have that fire in your belly, and if you don't, it just becomes a struggle, because you train so hard and you sacrifice so much. That it does become a struggle. So, and I think everyone has passion for football. I think we've all grown up around it. It's it's one of those things that we love doing. Obviously, it's different from going from your Sunday league to playing with your mates, and then having to go into a professional environment where you are scrutinised and you are under pressure every day to deliver. That's something that's that's a different story then.
Yeah, definitely. Who was your sort of biggest role model, either in goalkeeping or just in general, as you were sort of progressing through your career?
Professionally, probably. And if we're talking about goalkeeping, I always looked at Schmeichel. As a young boy, I was somehow, I don't know why, because I have no ties to it, but I was a Man U fan. my first goalkeeper top was the old school Manu Schmeichel shirt, which was green with the massive like crest badge on it. Schmeichel was the guy that I looked at growing up because it was just he was that big frame, he was that big character, and he was probably someone that I looked at and thought, that's how I want to be. In terms of coaching, I've had some great coaches. I've had some really good coaches over the years. I have to definitely, there was obviously my coach, who was a local coach at White Notley, who got me to Ipswich. I'll always thank him for what he'd done because he was under trial as a coach, and he actually didn't end up getting the job at Ipswich, unfortunately, and I ended up signing. So always big thanks to him. But I think from my point of view, Andy Woodman, who I mentioned before, obviously that year he come in was the year that obviously got me my pro. I felt comfortable. He'd know when I was up. He knew when I was down. We'd spend extra time on the coaching field. And not even from the technical part, by the way. It's a lot of people are like, you've got to be on the field. You've got to be on the field. You've got to be doing as many hands and as many feet exercises as you can. But there was also the other aspect of it, especially with a goalkeeper. Confidence is everything. And when you don't have someone that can put an arm around you or go, today we're not going to go on the pitch. We're going to go and analyse some stuff, or we're going to do something totally different away from goalkeeping, by the way, which just brings another dynamic to it. And I think, having someone there that understands you as a person, as, and as a professional, really, really can help. So, and hats off to him. And then, throughout the career where I left West Ham suddenly and, got an opportunity, my first call was to Woody, and Woody was at Charlton at the time with Pardew, and brought me in straight away to support some of the first team goalkeepers, which were great. Darren Randolph, who's obviously at West Ham now, and Robbie Elliott, who was at Newcastle for all those years. So Woody was great for me, to be fair, as a coach.
So as an aspiring goalkeeper who's like growing up right now, and they want to be, say, a professional goalkeeper, like obviously they say things like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. How important has it been for you to have people around you to get you into those environments, to get you on a trial, things like that?
It obviously is important. I mean, the cliche of it's not what you know, it's who you know. I mean, that unfortunately is still around. And there's, again, you would have seen it. You probably play with people, so have I, that were never given the opportunity because they didn't know anyone. But we're 100% good enough. But yeah, I mean, like, I was never from a background of sports. My family were never into sports really. We never knew anyone within football. From my point of view, it was just about just working hard, enjoying what I was doing, and thankfully I was in the right place at the right time at times, right? But I was also in the wrong places because there was opportunities and situations where I'd hoped that I would have pushed on, new contracts would have come, or I was going to get an opportunity maybe to play as high as I possibly could, and that didn't come because of either situations, whether it was opinions or other people coming into the club. I was quite. The Charlton and Crystal Palace thing was strange because I joined whilst they were both in administration as a club. So, I trained for a year and a half at Charlton, but there was no sort of formal contract type stuff, and I was just playing in the reserves. And again, that was down to administration, and they weren't signing anyone at the time. And Crystal Palace was very much the same. And then I think once I got to that point, it was like, I've got to think about what I'm going to do. Obviously went on loan to a few clubs, and some league clubs and some non-league clubs and whatnot. But then it comes a time where you think, right, I've been in some good places. I've had some real good opportunities. I've had some hurdles that I've had to jump over, and it's not worked out in some areas. And you sort of sit down and you think, I've got to build a career for myself, whether it's in football or outside of that. So yeah, it's definitely, to answer your question, it's great to have people around you, but that's not, it's not always that rosy. To be honest, you've got there's certainly highs, and by the way, take them and enjoy them, but also remember that you've got to be on your A game all the time, and that's what we that's what I preach to any of the goalkeepers that we work with at the moment.
Of course, yeah. Obviously, attitude is a big component. Obviously, knowing where you want to go. But how do you define success? Obviously, in goalkeeping, that some people, they go through the academy ranks and then they get released, and then they end up giving up, even though they're good at it. They have a lot of passion for it. How important is it to sort of define what success is for you, and how important is it to actually find ways to enjoy the game? Because obviously, you can have a goal to be a professional goalkeeper, but the real goal is to, I suppose, enjoy your football.
Yeah, I think there's only a certain amount of goalkeepers that can be out there playing the professional game, right, at the highest level we want, and you think about you're dealing with a global market now. You have to be realistic. You have to give yourself the best chance, and and success for different people is in different ways. Obviously, I define success on just being how you feel around the place and doing your job. I get more excited to put it straight. I get more excited about coaching than I do about playing. And I feel that actually probably have been in a very short space of time from probably one of the youngest at the moment in the National League from a goalkeeping perspective, probably achieved more in my coaching career over the last 5 or 6 years than my playing career. So for me, I enjoy what I do now. I enjoy working with Aldershot at the moment, and it's something that you take into perspective. It's good working with the lads and with the goalkeepers we have at the moment. My job now, and especially working at that type of level, is easier. And what I mean by that is that I'm really more my job with say Mitch Walker at the moment at Aldershot is more about maintaining his fitness, maintaining his sharpness, making sure, like I said, like with my previous coach, that he has someone that is there that he can talk to, that I can put an arm around his shoulder. I know when he's up and I know when he's down. We both know when he's had a good game, when he's had a bad game. And I think it's rewarding when, for us as we've heard it, the GK Union, right? That's still about, right? And that will always be about. And every clean sheet that he keeps, or the team keeps, we celebrate that. That's for us, that's an achievement, and when you knock in 2 or 3, 4 clean sheets on the bounce, you should be happy with the work. There's the other side of it where sometimes they do need an arm around the shoulder, and it's about analysing other bits and pieces. And I don't need to, at this level, you don't need to coach. I'm not changing any technical ability. We're not changing his style. As I said before, it's just making sure that come game day, he's had enough training and enough, and enough sharp stuff that he goes into Saturday and he feels great. So really, my job now, and that's why it is satisfying. It is enjoyable now, because there's not there's pressure of results. We're in a good league, and results are key. But for me, from a purely goalkeeping perspective, I enjoy it because it's good to work with, obviously, with good people and guys that have played. Mitch, for example, has played more games than me. So yeah, success is different, I think, for everyone. I think, as I say, I've probably achieved more success in coaching than I have, and being part of a coaching setup, than I have actually as a player. So for me, that's a positive, and why I'm still hopefully still coaching.
Yeah. And obviously you've worked with a lot of, you talk about Mitch there, you've obviously worked with, obviously at Braintree, it was Ben Killip. You've been around, obviously, people like Jack Collison, some top professionals. What would you say is the number one thing that separates them from people, say, who are, say, semi-professional or non-league, to being that top professional, the number one sort of psychological trait?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's it's definitely a desire and a mentality to work hard. I'm a true believer that if you do not work hard, then you won't get the success that you that you aspire to get. And knowing people like Jack, worked hard. If we're talking from a goalkeeper perspective, the Rob Greens of this world, right? I was able as a young lad to sit behind Rob, and the guy never missed a game in 6 or 7 seasons for West Ham. He was the hardest worker. I used to joke with people that the goalkeepers training would start at 10, half 10 for the outfield players in the first team back then. Greeny would want us out at 9, and we would be in, the young goalkeepers plus the senior goalkeepers. We would be out at 9 because Greeny would want to work on crossing for the day, and he'd want to get his work in before obviously he was then required by the outfield coaching staff. So we would work till 9, and then once the boys had finished, we would be back out in the afternoon because Greeny would want to do kicking, and at the time you think, wow, it's a lot, because we were doing it every day and we were working double as hard. But it just shows the guy went on to play internationally and, racked up hundreds of games playing in the Premier League. And as I say, played 6 or 7 consecutive seasons and not missing a game for West Ham. It was, that's the type of mentality that you've got to have. And that's someone at the top of their game.
Is that something as a coach that you can sort of create, or is it something that has to come from within?
It has to come from within, 100%. I think we can do as much as we can as coaches to give them the platform, give them the tools to do what they want to do. And ultimately, you have to want to do it yourself. You have to, because if you don't, then, there is only so much we can do as coaches and coaching staff. You give them, you want to make sure that there's no stone unturned. You want to make sure that during the week that you've communicated enough to them, you've understood how they're feeling, but you put on sessions that you feel that will get them to the point on a Saturday at 3 o'clock that they're sharp and ready to go. But ultimately, if you as an individual and as the goalkeeper, if you don't want to do the extra strength training in the afternoon on your legs, to increase your spring and your agility, then we can't make you do that. And as I say, probably stuff that I wanted to do. I should have done more of that when I was a kid, and that's why now so I try to bang on to the guys about doing your extras. You hear about it all the time. Do some extras, and don't just do it for the sake of it. Do extras because it's going to benefit you. That by doing those extra gym sessions, you are going to feel stronger, and you generally do see that within results and performances. As I say, big believer of working hard, and that actually nothing lands on your lap, unfortunately. Otherwise, we'd all be doing it and having successful careers. So, no, it's to answer the question, it needs to come from you as the individual.
Good. Obviously, a big part of goalkeeping is adversity, whether that's letting a goal in, making a mistake, dealing with pressure, getting an injury, things like that. How have you overcome, and maybe the people you've been around, how have they overcome setbacks, and how do they deal with pressure as a goalkeeper?
I mean, I'm obviously we're biased, right? But I believe that the position of a goalkeeper is probably is the hardest on the pitch.
Yeah.
I've always believed that, and that's from not just a technical point of view, but also from a psychological and mental point of view. You're the last man on the pitch, right? If that one, God forbid, slips through your hands, could make a difference. The striker at the other end can miss 2 or 3 and bang in 1. And he's remembered for the 1. Psychologically, I think it's tough. I think you have to try and keep yourself. I think working hard and working hard will always help you with that sort of mind frame situation. So, and what I mean by that is it doesn't just come being mentally strong. Met lots of people that again have been great goalkeepers but not mentally strong. One goal, one mistake kills their whole game.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that a lot. And I think there's obviously support out there and techniques and that you can adopt. But I think from your own sense, you need to be able to talk. And again, I think this comes from that. Do you have a coach that understands you as a person? And as I say, in parts of my career, I didn't have that. And I think I'll be honest. I mean, I had situations when I was playing not just in youth teams, but in professional environments and first team games where it means something to a club, where I've made a mistake, and I've just felt like, look, I could pack this in tomorrow, because, you think, how am I ever going to come back from that? 2 or 3 mistakes in a game, highlights, you're walking into the lads after and you're apologising that you've done this and that. It's really tough. And I think you just have to really keep fighting. You have to keep working hard, getting back on that pitch on a Monday, and, try and forget about what's happened. And, as I say, I think if you put the graft in on the pitch, it does show in results, but it doesn't come easily. Psychological strength from a goalkeeper, it doesn't come easily. I think it gets easier as you get older, and certainly play more games. Right, you become more experienced and you get to understand how you work and how you tick. But I look at the game now and I think if I was a little bit fitter, a little bit sharper, I'd play the game totally different to what I used to play the game. And again, that's just through experience.
Yeah. Obviously, like you said, more recently, you're a goalkeeping coach, and that's been one of the bigger parts of your career. And I remember when I came to train at Braintree, actually, I trained a couple of sessions. Obviously, I was doing the filming part of university. But I remember, just talking about what makes a good coach. I remember you said to me after the session, if I'd been around sooner, perhaps the club might have signed me. And I remember that's one of them sort of things that stuck with me, because it was coming from someone who I respect, like a character like yourself, someone who I actually get on with. And it kind of, even to today, obviously we've had lockdown, had things like that, and everything's a bit up in the air. But it's them sort of things that sort of myself, and I'm just talking from personal experience, it kind of makes you believe that, there's something greater coming. So you just need to keep working on yourself. But what makes a good coach, and how important is it to instill good belief into players?
Well, good question. I think fundamentally as a coach, you have to be honest, right? Because look, there's a lot of players out there, there's a lot of goalkeepers out there, again, some that have been given the opportunity to, and they have that goalkeeping mentality in them. They have that spring, they have the kick, all the things that we all want. They have the height, and then you've got some that, have to work hard at it. I was never natural. I was never a natural goalkeeper. I had to work hard, They used to call me Bambi on ice because I could never move my feet through those ladders when you're a kid. We've all been there, right? Honesty is a big thing in coaching for me, because, I've been on one side of the fence where you're working so hard, you're promised a lot. Yeah. You feel on top of the world at some points, and you feel that I can't do anything wrong, and actually, you take that into your games. But I've also been on the other side, where now I am a coach, and I see the effects that it has on not just the individual, but the wider scope. They're going home to family, and they might have had a poor game. Someone's rattled them up in the dressing room after the game. And they're going home, sharing that, ruining the weekend. And I just think, I've had situations where, not everyone's going to be a professional goalkeeper. We know that. Can you players? Is there an opportunity? And should you mentally think to yourself, look, I'm going to play as high as I can, whether that's in the Premier League or whether that's playing step 6 or 7, whatever that might be. There is definitely a place for everyone, and it's just about how you can be the best you can be. But I think honesty is a big thing, and especially as a goalkeeper coach, because there's only you and me, right? There's only you and me. There's not you, me, and another 22 lads that we're having to coach like you would as an outfield coach. There's you and me. The trust element has to be there. You have to trust me to know that I'm being honest around your experiences, how you're training, stuff that we need to improve on, and your performances in games. And, I have to trust, someone like you to be able to go and put in the effort, go and put in the work. When we're talking about maybe doing extra training sessions or extra gym sessions to try and help you with strength, that you're doing that for yourself, and that's where I think, I've been fortunate enough to work with loads of goalkeepers, and some goalkeepers that are playing at decent levels now. And and I think I'd like to think that with everyone we've worked with, or I've worked with personally, that I've been honest enough to say to them, look, this is what you need to do, and this is how we're going to do it. By the way, we've got a solution for that, and also be honest in terms of you're performing well. We need to keep on it, and we need to keep working hard, and we need to support each other. So for me, not just from a technical being able to put on a session type of scenario, I think wider afield than that, you have to be open and honest with your goalkeeper, and that comes back to that GK Union thing. I think if you trust your coach, you're going to go out there on a Saturday and you're going to perform to the best you possibly can. And as I say, because it's such a one-to-one thing, it's more important that you do have that relationship. Yeah. And that's what I've learned as a small tactic for anyone that wants to get into coaching is always, and not just with the starting goalkeeper, by the way, not just because you might have 2 or 3 goalkeepers, right? There might be a second choice, maybe a third choice, there might be some younger boys in there. You need to have a relationship with all of them and understand they all have different strengths and weaknesses, and they all react to situations in different ways. Yeah. It's a man management piece, and I think that's really important.
Obviously, the more open you can be to feedback, obviously, the more likely you are to then go higher, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, because look, I've been in situations where I know that I've asked my coach previously, how do you think I've dealt with that situation? Knowing full well I'd made a mistake, and it would be like, the answer I probably typically would get would be like, yeah, it's a mistake, but don't worry about it, move on, or no, it wasn't, it wasn't your fault. It was the centre half. He should have headed the ball away, for example, where, I think if you do make a mistake, you need to have that, you need to have that synergy that, I think you should have stayed on your line, or you shouldn't have come for that cross and you did, and that's not to be harsh on your goalkeeper. It's to make them understand that, and then we can move on from that. It was a mistake. Think you could have done that. Let's have a look at it back, but let's move on from that. At least now the next step. Not it wasn't your fault, and then move on, because that situation will come up again. And so I think you have to be truly honest with what you're doing.
Definitely. So moving on to the more tactical side of things, what would you say if you had to pick one or two? What would you say is the most important on the tactical side of things in terms of being a goalkeeper? Is it like catching the ball, handling? Is it kicking? And what's maybe one or two of your favourite go-to drills or things that you would always do?
Yeah, so for me, goalkeeping has changed. Goalkeeping has changed since when I was playing as a young boy, and also what I used to watch as a young lad. Because back in the day, it used to be, look, you have to be 6'5", you have to be this big, strong guy that would throw his body at anything. We see now, you look at some of the goalkeepers in the Premier League, for example, now, and the DNA of a goalkeeper has totally changed. Yeah. So you look at the De Gea's, the Hendersons, the Sam Johnsons at the moment, who are playing unbelievably well for their clubs, and the Nick Popes, Nick. Just to touch on Nick, has done fantastic. He was 3 years younger than me at Ipswich, and bless him. At that time, he couldn't kick the ball, and now I look at him now, and I think he's made leaps and bounds. But I think the DNA of goalkeepers changed. It has changed recently over the last probably 7 or 8 years, and I think you have to. Trait-wise, as a goalkeeper now, you have to be able to play with your feet. We know that. You have to be as agile as you possibly can be. You don't have to be 6'5". These guys are, some of them, you're looking at just 6 foot, 6'1" at a push. You're thinking, they're not as tall as you used to have to be, but they become much more agile, much more, feet-wise. So I think, attribute-wise, I think it's down to being able to play your distribution nowadays, and also your agility and your mentality around the goal. At the end of the day, you've got that space that you need to protect, and that's that's the most important part of your job. I think in terms of getting people to that sort of level, my sessions have become very much more focused on game situations.
Yeah.
You know, we don't do a lot of technical feet or hand movements. You know, we warm up. You know, we in a typical training session, you're probably catching 200 to 250 balls within our goalkeeping session. There's a lot of handling involved, which is important. But I think from our training methods and my training methods is more around game type situations, and that might be that, you know, we're taking shots from the 18-yard box in different situations. You know, there might be a little bit of movement in and around the goal, but ultimately you've got to save the ball.
Yeah.
And you know, there's definitely a place for the technical, you know, ladders and quick feet and whatnot, but you know, that should be done before our sessions. You know, if you want to go and improve your feet and your handling and your speed and your agility and doing all that type of good cone work, that needs to be done before our sessions. And then you come into our sessions as into our goalkeeping sessions, where we're going to work tactically and technically on game related scenarios. So a lot of our stuff will be within 6 to 18 yards. That's how we try to keep it. And it will be natural movements that you would make during a game. You know, whether you come out, you're punching across, and the guy is instantly going to hit it first time, and you're moving feet back, and there's another strike. You know, we don't work massive sets and reps either at the moment. So our sessions would be more, you know, you would do 1 or 2 reps, and then you would relax and rest, because we want to try and keep the quality. I know, you know, back in the day, the amount of reps we'd have to do, you know, we've all been there, you know, 10, 12 reps of up and downs, and you think, right, I get this now, right? But you know, we keep the reps quite low. So that's typically how how we run our sessions, and how I would run our sessions now. It's all around game scenarios, crosses, shots from the box, shots from angles, cutbacks. You know, in our league, for example, I think the stat is around 85-90% of goals are scored in the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
You know? So there's not a lot of goals in the National League that are scored from the edge of the box. So it's about, you know, those cutbacks, you know, those ones where you've saved low and you're up and someone's just about to volley it back in the goal, and you know, can you make yourself as big as possible? They're the types of scenarios that we try and reenact throughout the week, so that when it comes on a Saturday, you're ready for what comes.
Definitely. And obviously there's training, and then there's playing. And obviously when you're a young goalkeeper, obviously you can be a number 2 or a number 3. But, you know, what would you say? Obviously the most important thing, bottom line, is playing. But what if you're a goalkeeper who maybe isn't in a position to play? You know, is it an option to get around? Like, for instance, when I was filming at Barnet, and obviously Braintree, Billericay as well, even just watching the games and watching the goalkeepers and filming them, I realised that sometimes maybe it's not always about playing, but maybe it's about just getting around people who are, you know, much more experienced, much better than you. So what would you say in terms of an outlook? You know, is it maybe get around the goalkeepers first and then look to play later, or maybe both, so you play for another team as well?
I think if you've got an opportunity to play with the best goalkeepers you can train and play with, then you've got to do it. I think, like, there's so many good attributes and good techniques you can learn off people that have played the game, you know, and you know, especially as a young lad, I would because you know, we've all been there, the bright lights of wanting to play in the first team and wanting to play, you know, at the highest you possibly can. You know, it's one of those where, you know, sometimes the best thing for you to do is to train in a professional environment. You know, train with your peers, train with someone that has played 500-600 games at that level, and then go out and either if it's alone, or whether it's to go and play in, you know, maybe a lower step, then go and do it. If you can get the best of both worlds, where you're training and you're training with people that have played at one of the highest levels. You know, if you're talking about filming at Barnet, you know, obviously Scotty Loach is there, and you think, like, Scott's play for England, right? You know, if you're a young lad at Barnet, you know, for example, you need to be trying to train there as much as you possibly can. Are you going to play for Barnet's first team? You don't know that, right? So you need to make the best of both worlds. And I would always recommend that, especially as a young number 2 or 3, and it's something that I didn't do enough of, you know, and that's why I can vouch for this one. Is I was training in and around, you know, you're talking about top goalkeepers, Roy Carrolls, Rob Greens, Richard Wrights, Shaki Hislop, Jimmy Walkers, these type of people just at West Ham, but I felt that, right, I'm at West Ham, so I'm going to get a chance at some point. There's no point in going out on loan and learning how to play the game. I don't need to do that. But absolutely, if there was one thing I could have changed at that point, would have been to learn my trade at West Ham, at one of the top clubs, some great goalkeepers. Learned my trade there, understood, asked more questions. Yeah, that's what I would have done back then. Asked more questions and gone out and played more games. Gone out to whatever level it might have been. At the time, you think, I don't want to go and play in step 4 or 5, but go and get some games under your belt. That's how I say it to the young boys at Aldershot now. You're part of a big club, and you've got a great setup. But, are you going to play this season in the first team? Probably not, right? Go out and get yourself some games. Let's get yourself a club. If it's not step 1 or 2, that's fine. Let's go step 3, 4. There's still great teams and individuals and life experiences at those levels that are going to help you in the future. And I would 100%, if there was any young goalkeeper about that was in that type of situation where they were at a pro club, not too sure whether to play reserves or under 23s or whatever it is now, or get out on loans, go and play at a club, first team, a club that, because it's different, it means something to clubs. Obviously we know at the moment that it's hard and there's not a lot of fans and stuff at games, which is tough, but and there's not a lot of games happening at that level. We get that, but that will change. And I think if I was a young goalkeeper now and I had the same situation, I would be spending as much time on the training field as I possibly could with the seniors, getting the good techniques and good tactics and learning, listening and learning and watching, and then go out and learn your trade and go and play on a Saturday and get pushed about a bit, go and get pushed about a bit. And I think that's where you'll learn your trade.
What's your take on, for instance, obviously nowadays people go abroad to play football. They might even go to a place like, obviously, Jackson, America. Top MLS team. What's your take on for people maybe deciding to go to Europe, America, to maybe try and get experience playing abroad maybe?
I haven't ever done it personally, but I think from what I understand, from a goalkeeping point of view, I've seen a lot of goalkeepers in Europe and further afield. There's some great goalkeepers, by the way, in Europe and in the MLS and in the Canadian leagues, and so I would do it. I would do it again if I had the opportunity again, and someone to go and play, as I say, in America or somewhere like that, club, I'd do it. I think there's some great. I've spoken to loads of really, really good coaches in those types of areas in Europe, further afield, and I would 100% do it. I think if you can find somewhere where there's a nice climate and there's a bit of sun, then great. But equally, I think the standard of football anyway, from when I was playing, is basically multiplied by 10 or 15% anyway. I don't think there's ever a bad country, region, continent, league to go to and play as a young professional. And as I said before, there is a club out there for most of us. It's just finding that club and getting that buy-in and really being able to. Goalkeepers, you need to rack up games, right? You need to as many games as you possibly can, and and it's a position on the pitch that requires experience. How many times have we heard it? He's not experienced enough. We don't want to take him. He's not experienced enough. Well, how does he gain that experience? If you're a young boy, how do you gain that experience? You need an opportunity, and if that means going further afield, I mean, not that I've personally done it. I would do it now, but yeah, I'd back anyone to do that if they could.
Good. And just last few questions. Obviously, nutrition plays a big part in sports performance, and obviously when you're a professional club, as a player or as a coach, often food is there for you, and it's all very geared towards trying to perform at your best. How important has nutrition been for you, and also how do you go about your nutrition when it comes to maybe when you're playing or when you're coaching now?
My nutrition nowadays is not what it should be. Definitely not. But playing wise, we were. I look back at it now. I actually had this conversation. It's funny. I had this conversation with someone the other day about. They were like, "What was it like? Did you get everything cooked and it cooked for you?" And I was like, "Yeah, we did." Like I didn't realise, and this is this whole naivety piece. When you're young, is that you don't understand how much clubs like this are doing for you. We ate like absolute kings. They were every meal would be prepared correctly in its best way, in its best form. There would be so much analysis around that in terms of if Monday you've played Saturday, then you've got a day off on Sunday, you're back in Monday, and then you've got a game Tuesday. Your meals would be prepared in a way on Sunday and Monday by the club, so that you could perform at the best level on a Tuesday. Then they're not going to feed you probably heavy red meat on a Monday before a game on a Tuesday. It just wasn't, it wasn't probably within their. And I'm not, at heart, I'm not a nutritionist. I don't know, whether scientifically that's right, but I can imagine that our meals were prepared in a way that it would get the best out of us. And we ate unbelievably well. Our chef at West Ham, keep going back to West Ham, but our chef was, it was brilliant. When I lived in Diggs, everything was cooked for us, and that was all meal planned. We had the best of everything, and what that was just to try and give us obviously the best opportunity to go out and train and play to the best of our ability. But I think even nowadays, related back to Aldershot, and okay, they don't have the tools and the opportunities and the support that we probably have in terms of meals and full-time chef. They don't have that, but the boys definitely look after themselves still, even at that type of level, because it's still really classed as elite. They're full-time club, and again, they need to make sure that they're ready to train and play the way they would. And I think as you get older, I speak to slightly older players, and it's like nutrition becomes much more important as you do start to slow down and feel those aches and pains, and you might need that extra carbohydrate to get you through a game. So like huge part of the game still, even to this day. And goalkeeping wise, we never used to Stephen Bywater. Do you remember Stephen Bywater?
No, I've not.
No, he was a goalkeeper around the time of Shaka and Jimmy back in the day at West Ham. All I used to see the guy eat was fish and a plate of broccoli. That was it. I mean, and it was just like, that was his nutrition. But he'd run faster than any of the outfield players, and it's just it's a big part of the game, and I think will become bigger and bigger.
What's something in terms of, say, equipment, something that you would always want to carry with you? For instance, I always carry like a GoPro to film my games, and I realise how important it is to look the part and dress the part, because when you're in a kit that makes you feel confident, that's a really big factor. What's something in terms of physical appearance or kit that is a go-to for you?
Cool. Always liked clean gloves. By the way, I was a big stickler for that. Clean gloves was like a must for me, and as a player and as a coach, if you were turning up with dirty gloves, that weren't for me. So, and it goes back to what you said. If you look the part, you generally feel the part. And you'll generally go out there and play. But obviously, my gloves are my go-to. It's the absolute, they're your tools, right? And still look at gloves. We all, as goalkeepers, you got that weird fetish about gloves, and especially new gloves, and what they're like. And so no, gloves is a big thing for me at the moment. Where it always has been in terms of kit and stuff. I mean, it's different now. I sit on the bench a lot of times, so as much of the warm gear I can get from the kit man, the better. But I mean, I still look at still trying out gloves, still trying different gloves. I think that's one of the biggest things as a goalkeeper, right? You always have this weird thing about what a glove feels like, smells like. It's just one of those things I don't think it would ever leave you.
What do you look for, in a glove, for instance? I mean, I got these ones of the week, and they're like the ones that are no straps, the Nike ones. I mean, what do you look for? Is it
I've seen a few of them. I'm probably not cool enough nowadays to wear them ones, but they look decent. Comfortability really for me was always comfortable. I always wear a roll finger. I felt more comfortable in a roll finger instead of like a flat or a negative palm. Yeah, I remember back in the day I used to wear Cell Sport and then Cells, and they were like the go-to for me. Was Cells. Now I wear mainly Nike, but yeah, it was always comfortable. How comfortable I felt, how comfortable I felt in them. But again, like you just said, gloves have changed over the years. 10 years ago, there'd never be strapless gloves. And if you turned up with strapless glove, if you turned up with a glove that was any other colour than plain, it was like, what are you doing? Because nowadays, like you see, like there's the yellows, the pinks, the blues. You see them all. But back in the day, if I'd walked out in front of Greeny at West Ham in a pair of yellow gloves, I'd instantly be told to turn around and go and get another pair.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's totally changed.
It's amazing to think as well. In my last interview, the guy I was interviewing, he said that when he first started, you didn't even have gloves. So it shows you how far it's come.
You either did, you didn't even have gloves, or you had those horrible garden mitts I've seen. I think you can still buy from a garden shop. Yeah.
So in terms of just last couple of questions, what's your ambition personally now as a coach? Where do you see yourself in, say, 2 or 3, 4, 5 years?
I want to keep developing as a coach. It's definitely something that I'm keen to do. I think got low. As I said, I don't think it's been confirmed, but I'm probably one of the youngest, I think, in the National League to coach as a goalkeeping coach. I keep looking every game. I keep looking at the goalkeeping coach, and at the moment I tend to look a little bit younger than them, not by far, but so I think from my point of view, I want to keep developing as a coach. There's many more badges that I want to do. There's many more personal. There's many more personal things I want to do and achieve, and obviously I want to try and coach at the highest level. I think everyone wants to do that, and at the moment I'm a really good club in Aldershot, and obviously Surly, top guy and top manager, and he gave me an opportunity. This is our second season there, so we hope that we'll go on and perform bigger things with Aldershot 100%, and to keep coaching at the highest level I possibly can. It's been 4 years in the National League. You're racking up games, you're understanding the game more, you're experiencing more, you're understanding how to essentially win games. I've always looked at potentially something in the future would be to support more in maybe an assistant management role. I've seen goalkeeper coaches go from being that goalkeeper to then moving into maybe an assistant manager role. It's something that I've always wanted to do, and that's for the future. But I think for me now, you want to not being able to make it as a player. You want to coach as high as you possibly can and get yourself around the very best, and that's no different with me. So for the next 2 or 3 years, I hope that we're still performing well. I'm still working with some really good guys. I've hopefully got a few more badges under my belt, and I've experienced hopefully another 150 games by that time. And you never know. Football moves quite quickly, right? So we could be you never know what might happen. But no, I'm enjoying it, and as I said, I enjoy it really more than I did playing, and I think that's I think that's a big thing for me.
The final question, we might have covered it already, but what would be your ultimate advice, sort of any parting words to someone who's maybe watching this video right now and they're just thinking, I want to be a professional goalkeeper? What would, if they came to you and said, what do I need to do? What would be, in a few words, your best piece of advice to become a professional?
Listen and work hard. That's what I would say. Listen to the people that you've got around you. Find yourself a coach. Listen to what they have to say, and try and practically put that into practice, and work as hard as you possibly can. Because as I say, that it's still fundamentally, I know you hear it all the time, but without the hard work, it's hard out there. There's so many of us that want to become a goalkeeper or become a professional footballer and a professional coach, that it's so hard, and you have to make those sacrifices even to this day.
but ultimately enjoy it, by the way, because it should still be enjoyable. Going to training should be enjoyable. You know, your goalkeeper training should be enjoyable. You know, you have that GK union where there's 2 or 3 of you plus your coach. You know, enjoy that. You know, and if you're in that environment already, then spend as much time as you possibly can around these people. Ask questions. You know, understand. You know, ask for feedback. You know, ask for extra help. You know, get extra support if you need it, whether it's from a technical, tactical, or you know, from a psychological perspective. You know, ask as many questions as you possibly can, and ultimately, you know, I think you give yourself the best possible chance that you can. You know, and that's all you can really do, and then the rest is in the hands of the gods.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks, Dave. It's really good, and I know this will really help people, whether they're reading the book, watching the video, listening to the podcast. I know it'd be really appreciated, and to have your time, I'm really grateful for. So thank you.
I appreciate you having me, and yeah, I need one of those books, by the way.
Yeah, I definitely. Next couple of months, it'll be definitely the works and more expertise going into it. So yeah, I look forward to it.
Real. Top man.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, Dave.
Cheers, Luke.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, will do.
Bye-bye.